The people of Syria stand at a historic moment, and it's now up to the international community to step up and take bold action. This is the assessment of Jorge Moreira da Silva, Under Secretary General of the United Nations. We had a chance to catch up with him here on the sidelines of the annual conference on Syria in Brussels. Under Secretary General, thank you so much for talking to DW. You have recently visited Syria, where 7 out of 10 people require humanitarian assistance. Talk to us about what is most urgently needed on the ground there.
Thank you. As head of one of the UN agencies, the UNOPS, we focus a lot on infrastructure, but also mine action, so removing of the unexploded ordnance, but the provision of supplies to hospitals, to schools. So what I saw in Syria is obviously, in one hand, hope. There is a clear hope and renewed hope, particularly the new generations. They feel that they can take finally the future in their hands and to have a future that is safer, more inclusive, more peaceful. But on the other hand, things didn't change overnight. So we still see a country that is highly fragile. As you said, more than 70% of the population live under poverty. And the needs are immense. 1/4 of the Syrians left the country. And those that stayed are no longer living at home. So we have 7 million people internally displaced, 6 million that became refugees. So obviously, the sooner we create the conditions through humanitarian aid and development cooperation, providing support to the people, the greater are the chance that everyone will return home. And this is an important element. One of the key messages is the future of Syria depends on its inclusiveness. So I saw clearly, responding to your question, I saw needs in areas like water, sanitation, transportation, energy, but also significant needs on education and health. For instance, the Minister of Education told me that at least 9,000 schools will need to be built or rehabilitated, otherwise the kids won't have access to education. So this is the kind of basic needs that we are talking about.
But of course, for that you need money, and Germany has already pledged a fresh 300 million euros. There are other pledges from other countries. The US has been the biggest individual donor for Syria, but now with the White House slashing US foreign aid, how concerned are you that your humanitarian response plan remains underfunded?
Well, my colleague Tom Fletcher, that is the US Chief for Humanitarian Affairs, have been very vocal about this. We need to mobilize all the international community, and we really hope that also the US will provide support. I was quite pleased to hear today during this conference here in Brussels, several countries, including Germany, clearly announcing their willingness to step in.
But they cannot fill the gap, right?
Exactly. But at the same time, they didn't delay until having all the guarantees from the Syrian regime about perfection. For me, this was an important moment because nobody used what happened last week. What happened, and it was
the eruption of violence.
Nobody took it as a pretext to delay, because in other occasions we saw the international community saying that, it's better to wait until no violence exists. Today what I heard was something pretty mature and wise, which was asking the Syrian regime to ensure that no violence exists and no impunity is allowed. So a clear request from the international community that the new regime investigates and holds to account through a rule of law those that perpetrated those crimes. At the same time, that the international community is stepping in, providing additional support. And obviously, the needs are so significant that we need all donors to step in. So I don't want to specifically talk about the United States or Germany or the European Union, but I would say I really hope that all international community will provide the support that is needed. Otherwise, we will be extending the fragility. For those that are listening to our interview, for instance, in Berlin, I think it's good to know that the things didn't change overnight in terms of livelihoods. The country is still very poor, very fragile, and unless we provide support, the fragility will further deteriorate and it can erode the momentum. So as it happens every time there is a transition, a coup, or a revolution, there is momentum, there is hope. And I think it's important to step in while there is this momentum of hope. So I really hope the international community will take that step.
But because of those recent waves of violence, many leaders in Europe and in other places, of course, are kind of skeptical what to expect, and of course also there is a lot of skepticism when it comes to the new rulers of Syria because of their former close ties to Al-Qaeda. So is it not justified to be cautious?
It is, and I think it's not even justified. It is even good that everyone wants the new regime to be accountable. So when there is a trustful relationship, questions should be tabled in a blunt and candid manner. And it's what's happening now. So clearly, everyone is saying that we need a future, a transition that is credible. It's not fake, it's credible, and it's inclusive, which is not by some Syrians to some Syrians, is by all Syrians to all Syrians. And this is a message that has been expressed. So there is, I wouldn't use the word conditionality, but there is clearly the expectation from those donors like Germany that are stepping in that the Syrian regime ensures that these two elements are assured: the credibility of the pathway and the inclusiveness of the process. And obviously what happened last week with this uprising on violence needs a bold response. Today we heard the Minister of Foreign of Syria, but we also heard already publicly the government saying that they launched an investigation on what happened and that they will hold to account those that have perpetrated those crimes. So it's what everyone is expecting. But I think it's also important that in parallel, the international community engage with the Syrian government, asking what I asked is, what do you need? How many schools, how many hospitals, how many roads, what's the plan? Because nobody will design the plan here in Brussels or in Berlin or in New York. The plan must be designed in the country. And that's obviously it will require strong partnership among the international community. I think it was quite important that this time, and it hasn't happened last time and previously, the conference on Syria is with Syrians. The new regime,
it's the first time that the representative of the Syrian government
the government was in the room, but also civil society. And the message from the civil society was exactly what I'm sharing, is inclusiveness, transparency is fundamental, human rights, but at the same time, we need help. So the call from the civil society was quite bold. Human rights must be respected, but the international community must bring solidarity. So we need the two dimensions.
What Syria also needs is investment to avoid economic collapse, and the European Union has already lifted some sanctions on key sectors of Syria's economy. The majority of the US sanctions is still in place. Is that the biggest hurdle?
I think we need the gradual removal of the sanctions. As you said, it's gradual. Some parties, including the EU, have already announced that gradual removal. I hope that others will follow. It's particularly important on humanitarian because we are not yet talking about reconstruction. But even on this first phase, that is humanitarian aid and early recovery, we need to find a way to bring what the people in Syria need. So the gradual removal of the sanctions is important. And again, I was pleased to hear today in the conference not only the pledges in terms of money that donors will bring, but also the announcement from some of them that they are opening a way to gradually remove the sanctions. This is a process. Thank you
very much.